Who's had a sex dream? So it's like we've all had the dreams, right? We've all know we've had those dreams. I want to give credit to Matthew Walker. I'm pretty sure he's the one that said this, is that if dreams did not have value, Mother Nature would have gotten rid of them, right? The fish at the bottom of the sea don't have eyes, but we still dream. That's because it's giving you a message. It's helping you understand something that's critical to your waking life and it's critical to your personal growth and development. Ultimately, we live in a magical place that miracles and pivots are in ways you've never imagined are completely possible. It's about believing in it, right? Because if you don't believe in it, you're manifesting your world. So if you don't think it's real, that's not going to happen. I don't know what's best for me, but my higher self does. My higher self can see everything. Guide me. Guide me because you can see these roadblocks that I can't see and you can understand how to bring this magical piece together in a way that I can't predict. It's about the energy that you put out, right? Because the energy of like, I want to experience this, feel the feeling, and then like, let that come back to you tenfold.
Yeah.
It's just mind blowing.
Hey everyone, welcome to KTVG Studio. And we have a new segment for you guys today. We're actually going to have a great conversation with Amy Perez. I'm going to let her introduce her product and stuff, but one of the reasons that Katie and I were really interested is we wanted to learn more about stuff that's out there that can help you. Like we've talked about before, different things that can help you navigate, make decisions, just figure out what's going on for you. And we plan sometime in the future to have the guest that actually connected us to Amy on as well, who's Mark Dacey from Shoulder. So this is our first segment about it. Katie, is there anything that you want to say before we welcome Amy fully?
Welcome, Amy. I'm really excited because this is about dreams and it's a whole world of interpretation of dreams and how you even came up with this idea, your journey to it, and how it's going to help people. So I'm really excited to hear about it.
Yes. And I had expressed to Amy before that I am someone who does not normally remember my dreams, but hearing her story really resonated with me. So I'm hoping it will resonate with you guys too. So welcome, Amy. Thank you so much for joining us today. Really appreciate you making time.
Thank you. So happy to be here. Thank you.
And we're hoping you can tell us a little bit first about the product, the app, and then we'll move back to your story because I think the story of how it came to be is amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. So we built an app called myDream, which is a dream interpretation app. And essentially what it does is it uncovers what your dream symbology and those images in your mind actually mean and how it ties to your waking life. And so dream interpretation is something that has been done for centuries and it's actually based in science. It's based in a lot of different philosophies around the subject. And what we were able to do is take a completely holistic view of that and put it into the app. And it's very easy to use. You type or talk to record your dream, and then we pull out the emotions and the symbols, or you can just press interpret now and get a dream right away, which I'd love to do because I'm like, what did that mean? And then I can always go back and add my own features later or what I felt like really resonated with me. And then one of the other beautiful things is it also tracks your trends over time. So when I did dream interpretation myself, which I'm sure we'll get into, it took me a long time to realize the commonalities and the recurring themes and symbols and what they actually meant. And so being able to provide that in a really easy and intuitive way was really important for us. And that's something that we offer within the app as well. And so the whole process takes on average less than 2 minutes. So it's something where you're getting up first thing in the morning, you record, you press that widget button, go right in, record the dream, come back and interpret it later when you're drinking your coffee. And it gives you some really nice insights that allow you to make better decisions throughout the day, trust your intuition more, and also to really just recognize and show up for yourself in a way that's like, I'm hearing what my subconscious is working through, right? We spend 90% of our life actually operating out of the subconscious. And that's what the dream space is all about. It's all about processing what's going on during the day. It's helping you solve problems. It's helping you deal with stress. It's helping you work through your emotions. You know, maybe you couldn't yell at that person, but you're yelling at them in the dream, or you're yelling at someone else, but you don't realize it actually has to do with that conversation. And it helps pull all of that out. And it just is a beautiful way to add to your self-care and your self-wellness routine that I just think we haven't realized that it's there. The process used to take a very long time. And that's why we decided to build this app, because it's so rich with insights. And I am a process improvement expert. I did it for over 15 years in government. And one of the things that was the hardest part about it was it would take me almost an hour to do this manually, writing it down, try to interpret my chicken scratch, and then be able to go online or read books and try to find like, what is it, and put this puzzle piece together. With the evolution of AI, we can do this so much faster. And then the last thing I'll just say about it is that the app is actually backed by real life dream experts. We have a beautiful team of dream experts that have over 140 years of combined experience, from Jungian psychiatry to psychologists to spiritual direction and members of the International Association for the Study of Dreams. So this amazing group of dream experts supports us and validates the model, which is something that is missing in AI. And that's something I'm very passionate about as well, is responsible and ethical use of AI. So it's really a solid tool that anyone can use. And it's something that we can talk more about it, but we offer a free trial. And they're basically trying to offer it at a very, very inexpensive price because we will not sell data and we do not do ads. And so it ends up being about $5 a month because we just have to honor those things and we don't want to sell your dreams. That would be weird. You don't want that on your feed the next day. I dreamt up like a for a pogo stick because I dreamt about it. I was like, I don't need that. We don't need that.
I just want to reinforce something that you said this time that it really struck me, which is the whole helping people to honor and reinforce their own subconscious and intuition. And like folks who've listened to the podcast know that I've worked in politics before. One of the things that I remember telling people is just that most people actually vote based on their gut or their emotions. For as much information as even the intellectual people say that they do, a vast majority of people are not. They're like, I like this person, I don't like that person, kind of thing, as one example. But I love the fact that this gives people an opportunity to sort of, in one way, kind of parse their subconscious, that's been manifested in the dream, and be able to trust it, like be able to learn from yourself, to be able to trust your own intuition. And the other thing that you may be getting to this again, but I love the fact that you have a majority, I don't know if that's all of them, but a majority of your dream experts are women. And and as a counterpoint to AI, which has really been developed, as far as I understand it, by men, I love that you have this other counterpoint to it. Like AI is a beautiful, amazing tool, but it depends on who's built it and who's feeding it. So those were two things that I just really appreciated about what you guys have done with myDream.
Thank you so much. Yeah, the dream team, that's what I call them. We have those Zoom calls and these women are just vibing on another level, and they just have so much experience and they have so much passion for the subject, and I learn from them every time we meet, and they're really helping us to shape the app and helping us to just, we can add this feature and we can dive deeper here. And we actually just brought on a new lucid dreaming expert. So we're going to be building out a whole feature with that because that's a really cool area that I actually don't know a lot about, but there's this whole world of dream incubation and dream engineering where you can actually use your dreams to help you navigate life's problems. So you can actually go to sleep with the intention of, let me explore what this outcome might be like, or let me help me get clarity on this conflict. And you can actually, in the dream space, get those answers. And it's something that's been proven to be done through these exercises. So this woman that we just brought on, she's actually has a whole Udemy course, and she's going to be bringing that into the app for us. And we're going to be presenting it in a way for our users so that you can actually leverage so much more of your dreams beyond just the interpretation, so that it can be even more of a tool. I'm really excited about that. So they're just wonderful. And I feel so blessed that the universe just kind of put these people in my path, and it's just like, hey, you want to do this? Hey, sure. And they're so excited about this because they want dream interpretation to be reached to everybody. They're able to work with a small set of clients, and if those people are lucky enough to find them, but this is a way for them to get that information out to the broader public, and through the ease of use of our phones, which is how everyone uses, technology today. So they're just wonderful. And if anybody wants to learn more about them, you can go to our website, www.mydream.io, and we have their bios and their pictures and everything, so you can learn more about these wonderful women.
And I love that it's mydream.io. So I just want to emphasize the IO, because I know a lot of us will think, oh, myDream. Yeah, mydream.com. But It's IO.
Yes, if you
So
put it in Google, it should come up as the first one. It's myDream, all one word. But yeah, so it's we're doing pretty well on the Google search, which is great in terms of the
that's
growth.
awesome.
So
That is
I did your free trial
Yeah,
and I thought it was great actually because and I thought it was really easy to use. Um Something I thought was really interesting is when I was entering a dream and then it asked me what certain things meant to me or symbolized to me. And so that made it a personalization, right? Because I guess I don't know anything about dream interpretation, but it's fascinating. I did a little research before we got on together, and I guess we don't even really know where dreams are, how they're created, or what's the real purpose of it. So I have this recurring thing where like my teeth crumble and fall out. Okay. So it's not always, but it's a pretty consistent thing that I see in my dream. I don't know what it means. I don't know if I'm stressed. I don't know. Um, but I would imagine that means something different to me than it would to you. I would imagine, but I don't know. Was there like a
yeah,
universal symbolism for certain things or
yeah.
I
That's
don't
a great
know.
question. So the way to think about it is that across the collective, we share about
Mm,
60 to 70% of the same response to imagery, symbols, etc. So for a lot of people, they see a snake and they have a kind of a more of a fearful reaction. Some people see a
mm,
snake and they think transformation, right? The snake sheds its
mhm,
skin.
mhm,
But what your reaction to it, your emotional response to it, that is where the personalization comes in. So for
mm,
example, let's say, there's a bunch of different symbols that show up in your dream. They don't really have any particular standing in your world, but then grandfather clock is symbol in the dream, and
mhm,
you have grandfather clock that makes you think of your Aunt Betsy and you loved her and she just passed. And like there could be
mm.
layers to that imagery that only you know. And that's why we allow for that personalization
Ah,
because that 30 to 40%, that's where it's unique to each person. And so teeth falling out is actually very, very common. Can It can mean things like you're going through a major transformation or a transition, like you're releasing the old, you're shedding.
oh,
But it can
yeah.
also reflect insecurity. So it does depend on the context.
Mm,
And what I'll say is the app is really good at evaluating the overarching context to say, okay,
mhm,
this is probably the best fit. So even if you don't personalize your symbols, it's still going to
mm,
do a really good job of telling you this is how this would be translated, and then you can
mhm,
interpret how that works into your waking life. The more that you use the app, it actually gets to know you and it gets to
mm,
understand recurring themes and patterns. So every single time you do a dream, it's actually pulling from all of your prior dreams to say, okay, are there any common threads here? Are there any common themes? And I can bring that into this.
mhm,
So the personalization piece, it's because there's that 60 to 70% commonality. Then there's that 30 to 40% where it's unique to every single person based on their life circumstances, their upbringing, their culture, et cetera. So that is all
right.
baked into the model to make sure that we're
Yeah.
accounting for that when we're delivering that interpretation.
Yeah. Because I was thinking, for example, your snake example. I mean, if someone's coming from a sort of a Western educated background
Mhm.
and culture, there's a certain meanings you attach to it versus perhaps someone who's grown up in Japan or China or Asia. So I guess that personalization and ongoing use would kind of smooth out and overcome those differences, I mean, in a way.
Yes. And what I would say is on our roadmap. So right now we're only based in the US, and that was done
Mm,
intentionally because we wanted to make sure that we were leveraging the culture that we know to be in the US. I know and recognize that when we expand to Japan, when we expand to Asia, when we expand to South America, we are going to need to reconsider how that model is operating because
mm,
would want to make sure that we're leveraging what we know about those cultural references so that users don't have to edit it every single time. We want to be able to offer that personalized experience with as little friction and as little work on the
Mm.
user, because the only way this works is if this is easy. I have done enough process improvement projects to know that people will not adopt a new technology if it is not super intuitive and super easy. And so we spent a
Mm.
year actually in research and design before we ever developed anything, because it was
Mm.
so important to us to get this right. So I will say that we will, our plan is to expand to other English speaking countries and
Mhm.
have it available, because we do know, like, we launched it and there were some people in Southeast Asia that they had American phone numbers, so they could download it because
Yeah.
it's not, located, it's based on your phone, like where
Yeah.
your original service is from. And so it's like, oh, we have these people that are culturally, they just moved there and they want to be able to access the app. So
Yeah.
but it's something that we're being very mindful of, and I want
Mm.
to figure out the right experts to work with in each of those cultures to be able to say, hey, can you help me validate this and help me make sure that we're getting the right information or presenting this in the right way. And of
Mhm.
course, if for some reason, somebody leverages it and if we haven't been able to adopt that for their culture, they can always use the personalization to make sure
Mhm.
that it's in their world. And then
Yeah.
it knows it. From that point on, that next time that symbol comes up, it automatically pops up with what you put in.
Mm.
It just tells you, hey, this is what you used last time. This is the date you used it. And then you can change it. If you're like, hey, actually, I had this whole new experience and now this is
Mm.
different to me, right? Because things change. Also, your relationships with people change. So we do
Yeah.
have a way to capture your person symbols. So who are the characters in your dream, and what do you think about that person? What are the
Mm.
traits that they have? Because that's also mirroring back something in you or something that you're maybe avoiding. And so it's
Yeah.
about the parameters there. So we have the ability to, we do our best to say, okay, it sounds like this is Matt, your brother. But if you are, maybe you met a new Matt and you're like, okay, let's bring that in and let's tweak that. And you can also customize that as well and say, what does Matt mean to me?
Mm. Wow.
Yeah,
Amazing.
there's a lot that goes into it.
There is a
Yes.
lot.
Yeah.
And just speaking to that, I'm wondering if we can backtrack a little bit. And you mentioned that you have done a lot of process improvement work. And I'm wondering if you'd be willing, well, you've told us before that you're willing to share a little bit about your story of how you came to develop myDream and work on it. Because I think that just the process of it coming into being is also fascinating.
Yes, I'm smiling. Because the story involves a spiritual journey as well as a professional journey, and they
Mhm.
both happened in parallel. So if I can indulge you, I'd be happy to share. Okay,
Please.
perfect.
Yes,
Yes.
please.
So I was raised by a psychiatrist and a psychiatric nurse. I
Mhm.
had a very interesting upbringing in the sense that my dad was this psychiatrist who is this beautiful artist. He still is. I mean, he's 86 and creating every day. He's a freaking amazing person. Um, and I grew up in this home that we always talked about our feelings. We always talked about our emotions. Like, what are you thinking about? And it wasn't like they were, analyzing me, but it was just a place where that was very normal. We talked about
Mm.
sex. We talked about nothing was off limits with my parents. And so I grew up with this very like, oh, everything's okay. Everything's acceptable. And we'll just kind of just go with the world. And so I had a beautiful upbringing in that way, but it wasn't very spiritual. I will say that that was one piece that was kind of missing. So my mom had MS. She passed away in 2018, but she had MS for over 35 years. And
Mhm.
she went through such hell with MS that it basically made my parents become agnostic, because they were like, why could this happen? How how is this even possible? And I know that's something that so many of us struggle with when we see suffering in the world and we
Mm.
see just the pain and it's happening to good people and you're happening to us. And we're like, what the fuck? Can I
Yeah.
cuss? Sorry.
I think
Okay.
so.
I apologize.
I think
I don't
VG's
know.
done that before. So
I've definitely cussed before. Too
yeah,
many
she
years in
has.
New York City.
But we're like, what is happening? And so I became kind of agnostic and was just, angry at God like they were. And, I was raised Episcopalian and like, so I mean, I had some understanding of spirituality, of religion, but following my parents' guidance, I kind of steered away from it because They were upset.
Mm.
Yep, that's just how it was. So I never really gave anything more to, there's anything beyond this 3D. Never really considered that. When I was 25, so I was engaged to my now husband. He's actually my partner on this project as well. We left our careers to build it. He's my CTO and co-founder, Joel. His mom is been doing meditation workshops for years, and when I was 25, we went to a meditation workshop, and it was a weekend long thing. And there was a teacher who was channeling the Ascended Master Kuan Yin, and there was a couple of things that happened. One was, so I'm hard of hearing, and I have a hearing aid. And during that session, I'm completely deaf in my right ear, hard of hearing in the left. I had a moment where my hearing aid died, and I couldn't hear the instructions from the teachers, and I got really upset. I felt like I was missing out. And then later, the teacher said to me, "You don't have to hear to hear." And I didn't understand what that meant, but that really was talking about intuition. And that was kind of my first forte into, oh, there's something more here. There's something else that I can rely on besides just the five senses. And then the other thing that happened over the weekend was there was this time where people would do these readings for each other. And so a person would sit down, and then there'd be another person, and the one person would try to read the other person. I had no idea what was going on. I'm like, what are we doing? And I did not volunteer, but she picked me out. She said, "You come up here." And so in front of a room of about 30 people, they're like, "Okay, who wants to be read?" So then she sits us down and she says, "Clear your mind and say whatever comes through." I'm like, "You people are crazy." But okay, like I'm here for the ride. So I do it, and I'm talking to this woman, and I'm telling her she needs to call her brother. I have no idea if she has a brother. I have no idea who she is. And I'm just like, that's all and I don't remember the details of everything they said. I have some key things that I'm like, that was really strange. How would I know that? And she was completely stone faced. I had no idea. I was getting nothing from her. I'm like, I feel so silly. I'm 25. Like I'm not sure of myself in any sense of the word. And so she gets up, and she's just like, "Okay." And this guy raises his hand. He's like, "I've known her for 10 years. And everything you said is exactly what she needed to hear." And I was like, "You people are crazy." I'm like, I'm not buying it. So I get up to go sit down. She goes, "No, again." Nobody else had done it more than once. And she's like, "Nope, again." So I had to read a second person. Well, the guy that raised his hand was like, "Me, I want to be read." So then I read him. And it was about him, accepting love into his life, and being able to open his heart. And it was, there were some personal things that was shared as well. He's crying. And I'm just like, I don't understand what's happening. I don't what has happened? Like I'm feeling nothing. Nothing is feeling. So it's not registering. And all this doubt is going through my head. And then we finish the session. I get up to go sit down. She goes, "No, again." And she makes me do it a third time. And this third time, it was this woman who was she was a lesbian with a woman partner. And she was so afraid of her daughter and how her daughter was going to react with this. Like, she was going through some hard times at school. And there was all of this stuff of like, how is this showing up for her? Am I doing the right thing by her? And there was just all this fear around her daughter. And I felt it. I felt her joy. I felt her sadness. I felt her fear. And I just felt it. And it was this light bulb moment of, whoa. And that was when it shifted for me, that there's something more to just the 3D. So we finished the session. I was kind of shook by what had just happened. And after we finished, I had people coming up to me saying, "I've been trying to do what you just did for 10 years. And as a 25-year-old that had never done anything like this before, I felt so unworthy. Like, unworthiness is something that is just inherent in our society. It's a core wound that we all deal with. It was registering big time for me. And I'm just like, I don't know what I just did. I don't even know what the hell that was. Nobody explained, like, nobody could explain it to me. And I also, at the final third time, I finally look over at my fiance, now husband, and his mother-in-law, and they're crying, watching this whole thing go down. I have no recollection of anything like this ever in my life before. So, and then
Wow.
another person said to me, just so you know, be really careful because now that you've opened it, it's open. And I'm like, I don't know what that means. Just a couple days later, I'm in the grocery store. I'm in the checkout line, just minding my business. And all of a sudden, I am so filled with rage that I want to kill somebody. I am so freaking mad. I'm like, what is happening? What? Like, I'm just like having this out of body experience. And the guy in front of me just starts exploding at the cashier, just out of nowhere, just, and I'm like, oh, and I don't know how I did it, but I was like, nope, not for me. I'm good. I'm out. I turned it off somehow. I don't know how, but I did that. That moment scared me out of it.
Wow.
So from 25 to roughly 29, and keep in mind, we had also been doing sweat lodges and spiritual things and working with this wonderful woman named Patty Turner who runs the Sacred Earth Foundation. And we've been going to her workshops and she brings these shamans and elders from all over the world. And so we were doing those things. So after that experience, over the next few years, we kind of dabbled in it, but I didn't really want to turn that thing back on that I just had experienced. I was like, well, let me just kind of
Mm-hmm.
dip my toe in the water. I'm like, okay, these people do it this way and these people do it this way. And I kind of dipped my toe in the water. But then I ended up going through my I went hard into work. I went hard into the 3D because I think I was
Mm-hmm.
so scared of what I had seen that the thing that was stable and real felt to be like the 3D world.
Yeah.
So I went hard into that. I became very successful at work. I threw myself into that. I threw myself into, the material things, getting a condo, getting that car and
Mm-hmm.
doing that. And then Saturn returns, baby. Let's go. I'm sure you guys have talked about it on this podcast quite a bit. But Saturn returns was basically for me an initiation into this core spirituality piece. And so I did an initiation program where we did different shamanic and different initiation rituals from around the world that Patty had put together into this program. So walked on fire, was buried into the
Wow.
ground, we did a vision quest for 3 days in the mountains with a liter of water and that's it. And it was just, 1 month doing no salt, no sex, no shower for a month, just learning the limitations of like my ability. And during that time, I started to discover my intuition. And during that time, I started to discover dreams and to understand that that was another
Mm-hmm.
message from the subconscious or the message from the spirit world or whatever that language for the thing we cannot explain. But we know it's there, whatever your
Mm-hmm.
word, hear it here. But that was my foray into dreams. And in the meantime, process improvement wise on the government track, the reason I came to work in government was in 2008, the stock market crash in October, if you guys remember that
Yes. Mm-hmm.
bad day. I got laid off and I could not get through to unemployment because they were getting over 1 million busy signals a week. And I was quickly going to credit card debt. My severance only lasted a couple of weeks. And after a few months of not hearing anything and not being able to get a hold of anybody, I called the media, I called the senator, I called the governor's office. I said, I need help. I'm your citizen. Why isn't this working? And the governor's office passed on my information. I finally got a call back and they said, we're going to help you with your claim. I'm like, you guys need to hire more people. They said, we are. And I'm like, I'm applying. So went in. There was 400 people applying for a class of 30. We basically had to take the SATs all over again,
Oh.
made it into the class of 30. And I went in there with the biggest chip on my shoulder of this is not how government is supposed to work. And I was 22. I was so naive. I had no idea what I was doing, but I was just motivated, and so I went in, I was in the call center, I took claims and I actually got paid my unemployment my first day on the job. I had
Oh.
to go work the place to get my money. That's how bad it was. Yeah. So I went in there very, very motivated to do process improvement and
Mm.
it happened. I just was like, how can I fix this? How can I fix this? Nobody was asking me to do it. I just would just jump in and do it. And if you know government, it's very filled with a lot of dedicated people that are not given the support to really administer the programs that
Mm.
they need to administer. And so they welcomed the help. And it just translated into me becoming a supervisor, to me getting a process improvement team and running process improvement for the entire division, getting my Lean Six Sigma black belt from Villanova, project management from Colorado State University. And I just kept learning and I kept growing. And I was just trying to improve all these processes and do these lean projects and bring all the people into the room. And I would facilitate and like, how do we solve this problem? And let's try this and let's do that. And what technology is here for this? And it just grew and grew and grew. And I was able to run operational excellence and eventually was over technology support. And it just kept growing. And one of the things that happens in government, I'm sure in corporate America too, but if you're really good at your job, they just keep giving you more work and they give you more responsibility. They know they can trust you to handle it. And I did not know how to say no. I did not have a good sense of
Yeah.
boundaries.
Yep.
And I'm sure you know what happens next, burnout.
Yep.
So, but I was so afraid to leave my job. I was so afraid of what was beyond the other side of that because I basically had
Yeah.
grown up. You know what I mean? Like I had grown
Yeah.
up there over almost a decade and I was having a spiritual journey at the same time as this work career, being a manager. I was the youngest supervisor, youngest manager, and I'm a woman, and so I felt like I had to prove myself every day that I deserve to be here. And my husband was probably trying to convince me to quit for about 2 years because that's how overworked I was and just burnt out, stressed out. And finally, one day I had a dream. And the dream was I was being held hostage at work. And there was this maskless man. It wasn't necessarily anybody I knew. And he had a gun and he shot me several times in my lower extremities, which is important. I'll come back to that. And then I wrestled with him. I got the gun. I shot him in his head. And then he goes down. I look down at his head. It's my work cell phone with a bullet hole through it. The screen is shattered, but it's still working. I can't kill it if I tried. I'm like, that was a 2x4 dream. I didn't really need much interpreting to figure out what
Yeah.
that meant. But
Yeah.
I had having dreams that were cluing me into it. And I just ignored it and I ignored it. I ignored it. And then finally I got the real eye-opening one. And that, along with a conversation with Mark Dacey, actually, was the final tipping point. And I finally gave my notice. And I felt 20 pounds lighter as soon as I did it. People were like, did you lose weight? I'm like, energetically, I absolutely have just put down. So that's how those two things came together. And dreams became, I was like, wow, if I had listened sooner, how much more could I have benefited my life? How much more could I have maybe made a better decision for myself sooner? How much more could I have gone into this without being afraid? Because once I left, I was so happy. And all of my fears and all the things that I was worried about, which by the way, the being shot in the lower extremities, that's all about the root chakra. That's all about your sense of grounding, your identity.
Yeah.
So those are the things that I felt were at risk of if I leave this job, this is what I'm losing. I'm losing my identity. Who am I without this job? What is my ability to be stable and grounded and have a home and have, resources to live? Like all of those things were showing up. And when I later went back to fully interpret the dream, that was one thing that I realized, like, oh yeah, that makes a ton of sense. So
Yeah.
anyways, that's how those two things came into parallel. And then ultimately, I had told my husband there should be an app for this because this takes too damn long. And
Yeah.
we ended up, I decided to travel the world. And I told my husband, you should quit your job. Let's go travel the world. He had just accepted a huge promotion running the systems infrastructure for a huge Fortune 500 company. And I was like, you should quit your job. We should go travel the world. And he's very intuitive as well. And his first reaction was, oh shit. Because he knew it's not what he wanted to do, wasn't what the brain wanted to do, but in his heart, he knew that was the right thing to do. And so he gave us notice and we packed up everything. And ironically, a year before all of this, we had the intuition to sell our condo. We loved our condo, loved it. We sold it on pure intuition. And we had no idea why we were selling it. We're like, we love this place. We thought we were going to be here forever. But he brought it up. He's like, I keep getting this feeling when you need to sell the condo. And I'm like, as soon as he said it to me, I'm like, damn it, you're right. So we sold the condo and we had no idea what was in store. But because of that, we were already in a rental situation and we were able to just up and leave. We could sell our cars and put what we wanted to keep in storage and got rid of everything else. And we were ready to go. We didn't have to sell anything and go. So anyways, so that's what we did is we traveled the world. And then my husband, who was in systems infrastructure, decided to become a software engineer, which he's just an engineer. He's just one of those guys that gets it.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing. Every time he says the word basically, I'm like, I have to really listen because he's about to explain something. But anyways, he ended up going into coding and going into software engineering. And so then when AI became available in mass, he said, let's build that app. He's like, I feel like it's our time to build that app. And he had the intuitive hit. And this is what later on I was I had gone back. Anyways, we can come back to that story, but I had basically gone back
Mm-hmm.
in government because of the pandemic. They asked me to come back and support. So I decided to leave government again to build this app.
Wow.
Yes. Wow. Amazing. And I mean, I think for Katie and I, we've got to hear pieces of this before, but hearing the broader story is actually even more sort of, Mercury is now direct, but I still feel like I'm struggling for my words because I'm like, it feels gobsmacked, but like in the good way, like in the, yes, a story that reinforces our need to listen to ourselves. And it's
Yes.
so great to hear how you and your husband have both done that. I know we've heard a little bit more about your story, but you've sprinkled in ways that he was doing it as well. And, I love the fact that myDream can help folks support their process and learning that for themselves. Because not everybody has a mother-in-law who's been in meditation forever,
Right.
or even might not necessarily live in an area that has access to whether it's shaman like people coming in, or maybe they're just not comfortable with the ones that are, and so I love the fact that you guys have developed this, but even more so getting to learn the story of where it comes from. It's like it's built on this beautiful foundation that to me seems like a water fountain of like underground knowledge coming to the fore.
So
Yes.
can we backtrack a little bit because there was a fascinating part of your story that kind of ended, but I'm really curious about it. Not ended, but well, yeah, ended. Are you an empath or what is that? Oh, BG
I'm an
probably know. You know.
Yes, I'm an empath. I'm an empath.
Oh,
I it's uh yes, I would say that I'm very it's very easy for me to feel people. It's very easy for me to like tap into whatever it is they need to hear. A lot of my friends will say you're the most intuitive person I know. And they'll call me up and be like, should I buy this house? Should I,
oh,
I'll share an interesting story about that. One of my friends, she bought a house in Tucson last year. And she called me up and she's like, what's going to happen? We're in this negotiation thing. We're in the bidding process. I'm like, I'll tap in. I'll see what I get. And I got that they were going to negotiate, but that they would ultimately get the house. And then I said, but I'm seeing that there's some sort of energy in this room that has glass windows on both sides, and you just need to clear that energy. And I showed her how to clear it. And lo and behold, there had been I believe a domestic violence event or some sort of event in that room that had
oh,
happened. But I hadn't seen the place. And there's definitely a giant room with huge windows on both sides. And I was able to see
wow,
that. So sometimes it comes through as visions, but it's more of a claircognizance, more of a knowing that just comes through for me in terms of how I get information. But I
wow.
certainly would welcome spending more time with it for myself. I feel I I know it. I know enough I have experienced enough to be dangerous, but I certainly have not given it the full breadth of experience
Mm,
that a lot of other people do with it. And that's something that I am probably underselling myself on. It's hard for me to talk about it um as something that it's just who I am, but it's not
yeah,
something I try to cultivate. You know what I
yep.
mean? Because I mean, I've done Vipassanas, I've done lots of meditations, I've done ayahuasca, I've done, ceremony. I've had a lot of exposure to different
Mm-hmm,
elements of this, and I'm sure that that helps hone it in. But yes, I'm definitely an
mm-hmm.
empath, and I definitely use my intuition as much as I can in my waking life.
Wow.
And it's actually not that unusual for people who come by it naturally, and definitely for those who come to it young. I come from a family of people who have way more abilities than I ever see myself having. So, like, mine are in the taking away pain and helping to facilitate energy movement. But the claircognizance, the dreams that come true,
Yeah.
the seeing and knowing are things that people in especially my mother's side of the family, have a lot of. And what I've seen, especially with those, the younger you are when you experience it, the more I find that folks move a bit away from it. Um, Coming to it in your 20s is actually not bad. I'm talking about people who experience things when they're like kids and like are startled or scared by it, and really move away from it and take a long time to come back to it. So the fact that you have done as much with it as you have and that you talk about it as being a part of who you are is beautiful. It's beautiful. And I figure we all explore and expand as we move along. And yeah, when somebody feels the emotions of someone else is normally what is termed an empath.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the hardest things is trying to figure out where it's coming from.
Mm.
Because you're feeling it initially, you're like, okay, I have no reason to be angry, or I have no reason to
Mm-hmm.
be this sad. What is going on? And then there has to be some sort of external thing that makes, oh, I was picking up what's happening with this other person, especially
Mm-hmm.
if they're not interacting with you, like maybe they're in your environment. Um, I've experienced something similar. So that's why I'm just
Yeah,
describing it a little bit more.
absolutely. It's one of the hardest things to reconcile as an empath is what's mine versus what somebody
Mm.
else's. So one of the things that I do is I say, is this mine? And I check in with my intuition and I either get a yes or I get a no. And then I just go with it. And it's like, oh, if it's not mine, I've asked to release it. I, I don't want to absorb it, or I asked to transform it on behalf, just try to release the energy because that's what we are.
Mm-hmm.
We're energy beings. We have the ability to transform energy. So it's around just the intentionality that we offer is our biggest power, is the ability to say, nope, I'm good, because free will is absolutely what we have here. And so the ability to transform our energetic channels is a power that we all have. And it's just a matter of believing in it, trusting in it, and just following through on it. And, so you can definitely, I think as an empath too, you can tend to kind of pick up maybe more negative entities as well, or more negative kind of
Mm-hmm.
energy, because it's I don't know what it is about empaths, but they're more attracted. They're like, oh, I'm safe here, like they get me.
Mm.
But you have to say, no, that's not it, because it took me a long time to realize, like, this isn't my depression, this isn't my anger, this isn't my
Mm.
sadness, in because like you have to, but it takes time. And I think that's also why people kind of steer away from it. It's like, no, I don't want to deal with it. That's a lot. I don't really have the time for that. I gotta go to the grocery store. I don't really have time. Like it's just,
Yeah.
it's not something that we prioritize until it hits you in the face and you have to prioritize it. This is what happens to a lot of people. But a lot of people actually, there are a lot more empaths out there than people realize. And one of the biggest things that we do as empaths is we numb. We will numb through alcohol, through weed, through TV, through zoning out in whatever way, because feeling all those feelings is a lot. And
Mm.
so one of the biggest things to just be aware of, I mean, I smoked weed for many years in order to just cope with how I was feeling. But once I stepped away from that, I was able to really recognize this is this is a tool, this is a beautiful ability, and this is something that I don't need to be as scared of as I once was, and to just work through that. But I think that comes with maturity. I think that comes with time. I think that comes with experience. It's all part of the journey, because
Mm-hmm.
I can relate to people who are in that space because I've been there, and it's not a judgment. It's just, that's the process. It has to do with us coping the best we can in this human form, in this human experience. And we're all doing the best we can. And there's so much more to uncover. That's the mystery. That's the beauty of it, right?
Did you
Just to,
have, oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, go ahead, Katie.
Did you have, well, this is a question for both of you, actually, both of you empaths. Did you have a guide to help you figure all of this out? Or did you just figure it out on your own?
Oh, I had many teachers.
Oh,
Many
okay.
teachers.
Oh.
Yeah, but not in the timing that I would have liked. Let's be clear. There was definitely some personal struggle before realizing those teachers. So, for example, that very first experience, there was no follow up. Like nobody pulled me aside and was like, "This is what just happened, and here's how you process this." All I got was, "Hey, you better be careful." That was all I got.
Wow.
So, but through my process, like with Patty Turner and then also Tom Schnitzes, he's up in Dillon. He's actually how I met Mark. He was our meditation teacher, and he was a great teacher for me. And recognizing the ascended masters and ultimately what they did is to release the ego, and that's what made them become an ascended master. And so, releasing the ego is also a big part of the empath journey as well, because you're trying to figure out what's your stuff, what's someone else's stuff. But we all have our own story, our own programming, and we have to be able to see that for what it is in order to really recognize this is my emotion. This is me reacting to something that's a core wound. This has, so there's layers to that. But definitely it's interesting. Are you familiar with Dolores Cannon? So
No.
Dolores Cannon is this woman. She's passed now, but she I want to say it was the 50s or 60s. I want to say 50s. She and her husband were in the military, and they were starting to experiment with deep hypnosis and deep regression. And she started to uncover that there were layers to hypnosis where you could go into regression, like past life regression or regression and speaking with other entities or beings and things like that. And she put it on hold because she had to raise children, but she came back to it in the 70s. And she did this for 4 or 5 decades. And one of the things that she developed was this is QHRT, which is basically a past life hypnosis technique. So you can actually find a QHRT specialist. You can go through, get a past life regression, and in that session, you can also ask questions of your higher self, or you ask questions of your guides, your angels, whoever it is that whatever enter the terminology there that fits in your world. But being able to communicate that, but you're the one speaking it all. It's all coming through you in hypnosis. And one of the things I asked, and this was before I had ever gotten into any of this stuff with the spirituality kind of stuff, I had asked what was my life's purpose. And she said, and I said, learn how to manipulate energy. And I'm like, and so she's like, what kind of energy? Because she's facilitating. She's asking questions. Are we talking wind energy, solar energy? No, a different kind of energy. And it's like, okay. And so then she asked, how will she learn this? And then it was a teacher will be provided. The very first meditation workshop I had with Tom or with Mark, this is the very first time I really got to know Mark. I walk in, it's this circle with 2 beds on the floor, and there's all this these flowers all around, all the pictures of the ascended masters, and it's crystals and candles, and it's so woo woo, it's just like, wow, okay, this is just backing right in. Okay, hi people, I just met you. But my path had led me there, and that was a beautiful journey as well after the vision quest. And anyways, so we were talking at lunch. Let me back up because you talked about the empath thing. This is when it came back on, is when I went to this meditation workshop.
Right.
So I hadn't experienced anything for about 5 years. I go to this meditation workshop. I'm meeting these people. They're lovely. There's 2 beds on the floor. They're like, okay, pick your people. So this mother-daughter pair goes down. And we had one person at the head, one person at the feet, and then either 1 or 2 people on either side, depending on how many people were available for the beds. And so I was on one side of the daughter. And during this meditation, it was this healing ceremony. During this healing ceremony, it's about 45 minutes long. She was just wailing and yelling and crying and just all of this emotion coming out of her. And I'm just getting hit with feeling like I'm guilty of a death, like I murdered somebody, or I'm responsible for
Oh.
a death. I'm getting feelings of being a scared little girl, like in a room, and I don't want dad to come in, or whoever this father figure is.
Mm.
I don't want them to come in because I know what they're going to do to me, and it's not going to be good in terms of like sexual stuff. And I was feeling all of this. I just met these people, and we go around afterwards and everyone shares, and people are like, I saw a butterfly and I saw this color. It's like, it's just like, well, this must be a past life something, because this is what I got. And she goes, you're exactly right. My boyfriend died in a hot tub in my arms. I thought he was joking because
Oh.
he like went under, but he actually was drowning and I didn't save him. So she had that guilt over that.
Oh.
And then her father had done some pretty awful things to her. And it was a moment of, oh, I had been wondering what it would feel like to bring it back on, and I had missed it
Mm.
because it had been 4 or 5 years at this point. And I was like, oh, okay. I don't know how I just did that, but this is a place to learn. Like, it was like a light bulb moment for me to say, okay. And
Mhm.
at that point, I had literally just been following my intuition to find this teacher, through another workshop, and just following the breadcrumbs, right? So, anyways, at lunch, we so there's all these ascended masters pictures. Jesus is an ascended master. It's, Buddha, Jesus, Kuan Yin, they're all ascended masters. There's this fabulous group of ascended masters.
Hmm.
And so I'm talking to Tom, or Tome as he's called, and I say, no, this is pretty cool what you got going on here, but the Jesus thing, that's going to take me a minute to get over, right? Because I had been raised with like Episcopalian, but then no, like God screwed us over. We're not into this anymore.
Mm.
And I was like, I don't know about Jesus. Like, we're going to have to kind of work through that. But all these other people seem great. I don't know anything about them. And he was like, well, what did Jesus do? Jesus, he manipulated energy. What are we here to do? Learn how to manipulate energy. And he used those exact words from the same past life regression. And the hair on the back of my neck stood up. And I was like, oh,
Oh.
so you're my teacher. Got it. And it was just like a
Wow.
cool moment. And that was several years apart.
Wow.
Yeah. So your teacher's there. If you want to find them, you set the intention, follow the breadcrumbs, you'll find them.
VG,
And
did you
like,
have a teacher?
and multiple teachers, just like Amy. I mean, there's
Oh,
lots of,
wow.
I was about to say, to like reiterate what Amy has described, is that a lot of times there are multiple ones, there are multiple points. I definitely had a string and an intensity component when I was experiencing like the hot hands when working at Citibank, and was directed through somebody who's a mentor, but also was a colleague. And she saw an energy healer. And I was like, can you ask her for a book? I need a book because I have no idea what's going on here. And she recommended Barbara Brennan's book.
Yeah.
Still took me another 3 years before I actually went to the school. But that was like step one.
Mm.
Well, at the school, which I used to very publicly call going to Hogwarts because the Harry Potter thing was really big at the time. And I had similar moments to what Amy described, where my first day, I was like, how did I end up here with all the crazy people? What the hell is going on here? I'm very grounded in this 3D world. I believe in all the rest of the stuff, but this is bonkers. And I started out going to that program thinking, I don't understand why this isn't a long weekend or maybe a 1 week program. I graduated 4 years later going, this should be 6 years, if not longer. It's not long enough. Like, I need more. But even while I was there, I would run into other teachers, other people. So like when you were talking about, oh, I'll ask myself, is it a yes or is it a no? For some people, it doesn't come that easily. Like
Right.
being able to like know what the answer is feels cloudy. It doesn't feel clear. And there was a woman who was in my class at Brennan who talked about the physical.
Yeah.
So she talked about doing like, they do it all different kinds of ways. But the one that I really liked was you ask a question that you know the yes or no answer to. My name is VG. Okay. So my fingers stay together. They don't come apart. My name is Katie. My fingers very easily come apart. Like I'm not, this isn't me doing anything. It's just when I say my name is VG, my fingers stay together because that's true. When I say my name is Katie, they come apart. I mean, like I physically try and hold them together. They don't stay. They come apart and you can feel it in your muscles. You can feel it when you do that. And if it's cloudy for you to say yes or no, do something like this that allows you to get that yes or no viscerally in your body. And so Regina, she was a nurse. It was something that she had learned before she came to Brennan. She shared that. So like even through this place of being at Barbara Brennan, I was still people who were in my class were my fellow teachers. Past life regressions, I actually took a course with Brian Weiss. He's a psychiatrist, trained, very Western medicine trained, who stumbled across some of what it sounds like Donna Kesson had been talking about for a while, but he was doing hypnosis to help somebody with phobia and did a hypnosis going, okay, let's go back to when the phobia first presented. And she spontaneously went into a past life.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, what is going on here? And so developed, and I don't know if he had read Donna's work. I'm not sure. He's never mentioned her in a way that I can recall. Doesn't mean he hasn't. But this was going on for him, I believe, in like the early 70s that he stumbled into this. And he does not teach them anymore. But 20 years ago, he and his wife actually taught a week-long course at the Omega Institute to help people learn to help others through hypnosis access their past lives, access their intermediate time period, access their higher selves, kind of thing. I don't think at the time they used all of those terms, but they described it. They described it. They described it when you go to that place in between, when you're between lives. They described actually talking to your guides and your higher selves. I don't remember the terminology they used, but and the stuff about Jesus and the ascended masters. I remember when I was at Brennan stumbling across this book about Anna, the mother of Mary, and the fact that the story that comes to us about who Mary was and who her mother was, because Jesus' maternal line actually came from a long line of what we might term priestesses, and that were initiated into the higher mysteries. And so, like, we get this story that has been developed based on previous concepts of what a god is. But the actual stories, I think, are even more powerful. And so, many teachers, and some of them not on this plane. So, like, for me, my first memory of talking to an ancestor is the grandmother I'm named for. And it's little kid stuff, which little kids often do have conversations or interactions with entities that seem very real for them, but our adult perceptions are not necessarily one and the same. And a lot of us grow out of it. And I would say there was a whole period of time I grew out of it that I didn't. But I have a distinct memory of being 3 and of being 8 and at 3, I was just playing like with my grandmother. And at 8, I was really scared. And she described the fact that, first of all, where she was at, she didn't have to sleep. So I could sleep because she would watch over me. And second of all, she described what I now would talk about as like my 7th level and like expanding it out and shoring it up so that there was a protective barrier around me so that I could sleep. So, but those weren't things that, like, if you talked to me when I was 12 or 13, I'd be like, please, whatever, like, I imagined this, I dreamt it, like I still, even, I don't know, in my 20s and 30s might have still been talking about it in that way. And I mean, Katie, you met me when I was like 20. I was very open to a lot of this stuff, but I still don't know that I would have talked about it in the way that I talk about it now. Because to Amy's point, there's a lot of different places where you come to realize what you're experiencing, you come to acknowledge it, and you also begin to be more comfortable with it. So like, for me, it would, people would talk about their dream. This is interesting because I hadn't thought about this in a while. Now we're talking about dreams. I don't even know. I was the astrology girl in my house, and people would talk about a dream, and I think this is the empathic point, but I remember distinctly almost interjecting. Somebody was trying to describe something, and I was like, "Oh, was it this?" And describing for them, because I could see it, what had happened in their dream. And them just being like, okay, yeah, that's exactly what it was. And me being like, oh, whatever, like it wasn't anything I acknowledged that I did, it was like people would do the circle massages, like where everybody would sit in a circle and massage people's backs. And I hated people do mine. So I'm like, can we do a train and I'll be the caboose? But people telling me, you always find the spot. Again, I don't know what I'm doing kind of thing. You're 18. Well, I always find the spot. Okay. Yeah, I have healing hands. That's nice. Moving along. So just different points, different elements where you find different healers, maybe for what you need in that moment. And you share and you learn. But I think one of the biggest components, at least for me, is to recognize that sometimes it's the most mundane aspect. Sometimes it's the person next to you that teaches you something.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just the message that you pay attention to. Katie and I do something that we call it guided finds, of just like, what was it that we noticed this week? Or what was it that really came up for us? And sometimes that's where the meat is, the lesson, the learning.
I can see how the app comes out of this, actually, because I mean, I'm not an empath, but I can see how, the dreams, you could see it as kind of a self-hypnosis in a way. You're sending messages to yourself, or the intuition is speaking to you. And in that sense, I can see how the dream app I could use it to listen to those messages that I'm sending to myself that I otherwise would just ignore.
One of the things that I love about the dream space is that the ego is not present. And so it doesn't lie to you, right? It's not motivated to do so. So
Mhm.
you are able to get insights without the noise. Your mental
Mm.
chatter isn't present. You're literally fully in your subconscious. And so the thing about the intuitive part and the beautiful thing about dreams is that you ultimately are your own sovereign being, and you can say this resonates with me or it doesn't.
Mhm.
But it's about being honest with yourself and not skipping over, oh, I just don't want to deal with that, right? Because usually if it's intuition, it's not the answer you want. It's not the sell your condo answer,
Yeah.
it's the thing you don't want to do, but you're like, but I'm being told I should do it. And then you look back at life and you're like, oh, if that didn't happen, then that couldn't have happened and that couldn't have
Yep.
happened. And so there's this beautiful book, and one of the principles of the book is this man is going on this journey, right? And it's about the journey to self-discovery. And in every house he visits, there's an angel, and he's able to be given a new tool for his journey. And one of the tools he gets is a map, but the map only works in real time. So it's not a map of everything, but in real time, like he's in this big storm and he pulls out the map and it's been blank this entire time. And then all of a sudden a cave appears on the map and it's like, oh, you need to go
Mhm.
here and hide out. And so the thing about intuition is that it is in the now. It is not going to be like in 5 years, we're going to know,
Yeah.
because there's so many timelines, there's so many potentials, and you have free will. But the intuitiveness is the map in the moment of the path to go. And what I'll speak for myself, once I learned to trust that,
Mm-hmm.
it's still a battle. I'm not going to lie. Like you still have to deal with your mind and your ego and your programming and your fears and blah, 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 blah. All of that still exists. It doesn't just go away. There's
Mm-hmm.
a saying, before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry
Chop
water.
wood, carry water.
It doesn't stop. So it's really about knowing in every moment, trusting in that, and then just going with it and trying to follow it the best that you can, and knowing that there is no wrong choice. Because ultimately we live in a
Mm-hmm.
magical place that miracles and pivots are in ways you've never imagined are completely possible. And it's about believing in it, right? Because if you don't believe in it, you're manifesting your world. So if you don't think it's real, that's not going to happen. So it's about tapping into that and allowing yourself permission to be open to all possibilities and to be open to the potential of like, I don't know what's best for me, but my higher self does. My higher self can see everything. Guide me. Guide me because you can see these roadblocks that I can't see, and you can understand how to bring this magical piece together in a way that I can't project. We can do our vision boards and all of these things, but really it's
Mm-hmm.
about the energy that you put out, right? Because the energy of like, I want to experience this, feel the feeling, and then like let that come back to you tenfold.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
every time I do that, it's way better than anything I could have ever imagined.
Yeah.
It's just mind blowing. Like when we traveled the world, we did it on pure intuition. We didn't
Mm-hmm.
have a plan. We left. We went to Africa. In April. We knew we needed to be in Thailand by November to meet some friends. Outside of that, we didn't have a plan, and it was the most beautiful journey. And we ended up doing all these things that we never would have done otherwise, and met all these people. And so, one of the things I wanted to come back to with UVG, there was a great book that I had read. It's like your internal guidance system, or your inner GPS. And one of the exercises that she gives, just in case other people want ideas on how to tap into the yes or the no, and you could try this, Katie, is to tap into what it feels like in your gut when you're saying a yes or a no answer. And
Mm-hmm.
what generally happens if when it's a yes, when it's something that is right for you, you'll feel expansion. You'll feel an outwardness feeling. And if
Mm-hmm.
it's not right for you, you'll feel a closed in feeling or like a twinge in your gut. That's
Mm.
feeling that people talk about, like I got a knot in my stomach. That's because it's saying no, So it's some people are feelers, some people are claircognizant. Some people get tingles throughout their whole body when it's right for them. So it's just about testing it out, like VG said, and just finding what works for you because everyone's different, but everyone has this ability. This isn't a
Mm-hmm.
unique ability that
I
you know.
normally relate it, Amy, to swimming, where for the most part, everyone could swim.
Yeah.
You might need to be taught, you might need to practice, but
Mm.
most everyone can, but some people like practice like crazy. Some people have natural ability. Like there's different levels of, some people love it. Some people are like, if I don't ever have to do it again, I would prefer it that way. And I oftentimes describe these types of abilities in that vein, in that everybody has, for the most part, some capacity for it.
Yes.
But what you do with it is what determines where it goes and how it grows.
So here's a question for you. For the people that are particularly blocked accessing this,
Mm.
do you have any, both, this is for both of you, advice? And maybe you can relate it to the app as well. Like dreams, maybe they have a hard time remembering dreams or think they don't dream. I think everyone dreams, but you may not recall it. Or do you have any advice for people who just can't seem to access or particularly blocked?
I would share a story about how I was blocked and I didn't know I was blocked. So I
Oh.
was at a workshop with, it's actually How I Met the People, which is how I met Tomei. This is on the breadcrumb journey.
Hmm.
And everyone was meditating and this woman was guiding everyone through, okay, do we see this? And and I'm like, I'm getting nothing. These people suck. This sucks. Why am I here? This is awful. And I'm just so like, ugh, because I'm not feeling anything, right? And I'm feeling like, what am I doing here? These people are clearly on another level and I'm just not there. And she looks at me and she goes, And I bring this up to her afterwards. She's like, you've got a lot of anger you need to release. And I'm like, what are you talking about? No, I don't. And so she's like, we're gonna take you out to the woods. And you're gonna go beat a tree. And I'm like,
Oh.
okay. And I had so much anger in me. I was so mad about things that had happened in my life that I had just stuffed down. And it was
Wow.
almost like that layer of emotion that I had packed down was preventing me from accessing the feelings, because I'm like, if I feel
Mm.
anything, I'm going to feel that. And I cannot deal with that right now.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if this is true for everyone. I would advise anyone to see if that resonates with them. But for what I learned was that if you don't address your emotions and if you don't let them flow through you and you don't express them in
Mm-hmm.
real time and you save them for later, they ultimately have to come out at some point. You have to empty that cup in order for things to flow through you. And that's a
Mm-hmm.
painful part of the journey. It's a shitty part of the journey, but it's a necessary part of the journey, because all of that weight, all of that baggage, it's just holding you down, and it's not allowing for new and beautiful things to come into your space, because you're still holding on to the past. You're still holding on to that story. You're still holding on to that anger. And it's not to condone anything that's ever been done to you, or as a result of something that maybe you did. Maybe you carry guilt about something. It's all part of being human. And so I
Mm-hmm.
went out and I asked the tree, may I beat you? And it was like, absolutely. I'm strong. I can handle it. I'm like, okay, but, and I was so emotionally exhausted after that, but then
Mm-hmm.
it allowed for that vessel to be open. So I don't know if that's true for everyone, but it seems to make sense that if you have to feel in order to feel your intuition, but you're so good at stuffing your emotions down, then you're not
Mm-hmm.
going to be able to feel. And so it's about being brave enough and courageous enough, because it's hard to face those things and to allow them to come out. And it's okay to allow them to come out in short snippets. Watch that movie that makes you cry. Listen to that song that makes you cry. Go to the gym and beat on a punching bag, and allow yourself to get your emotions out in a way that feels good for you. That could be a key to untapping that. What I would say is how that ties to
Mm-hmm.
dream, because those emotions will show up in your dreams. Even if you're not addressing them in your waking life, they will show up in your dreams, and it will be presented to you by the app to say, it sounds like you were experiencing these emotions. And you can also add to it. And then you can look at your emotions over time and you can see, oh, wow, okay, during this period, I'm really feeling, a lot of sadness, or I'm really feeling a lot of surprise and grief. And you're able
Mm-hmm.
to see your own patterns, but you can also see how that evolves over time. So you can feel a sense of let's say accomplishment or reward, but a sense of acknowledgement of like, yes, I have dealt with X, Y, and Z, and now I'm
Mm-hmm.
addressing this. But I will also say that those emotions, it's like layers of an onion. You're never done with it. There's always more. And but the more you become comfortable with being uncomfortable with your
Mm-hmm.
emotion, then it's less of a hold it has over you. And it's allowing you to be more in the space of acceptance and welcoming in new things. And also the time that you stay in the emotion gets shorter and shorter and shorter. So this is something that's really key in a lot of meditation practices, is that your reaction time, your ability to step away and see it as, oh, I'm reacting to this, gets stronger and stronger. So we did, my husband and I did a Vipassana, which is a 10-day silent meditation retreat in Sri Lanka. And the big thing that you learn in that meditation retreat, I mean, this is 11 hours a day, sitting on a cushion, no back support, just meditating. And there's no phones, there's no books, there's no journaling, there's no talking. It's a silent meditation retreat for the whole 10 days. And you have breakfast and lunch, and that's it. And during that time, what you're experiencing is the sensation running through your body and observing if you like the sensation or you don't like the sensation. Everything's a judgment. Every second of every day, we're just judging things constantly. I like it. I don't like it. I like it. I don't like it. And so once you realize that all things are coming and going and all things are temporary and they don't last, then the ability to say, oh, this sensation, this too shall pass. So those emotions that are coming through, this too shall pass. Even though in the moment it feels like this is my whole world and I'll never get over this, it
Mm-hmm.
actually, the duration of time you spend in that space gets shorter and shorter and shorter. And you're able to see it for what it is more. It doesn't
Mm-hmm.
mean you're not going to experience it, but the impact, the suffering that it has in your life, that goes in more manageable chunks. And over time, then it also, you start to empty that well, and then more is able to come into your world. So I don't know if that helps, but I think that's how dreams can work, because you're recognizing the emotions in the subconscious. You're able to now bring that into your conscious mind and acknowledge it. And by connecting the subconscious and your conscious, you're now able to do something with it. You now have choice. Whereas when it sits in your subconscious, you feel helpless. You feel like you don't have choice. You have no control over, how am I going to react to this? That's really the only choice we have, is how we choose to react to things. We don't have choice in what happens to us, but we have choice in how we show up.
Yeah.
And this may be a very semantic component, but I just want to say that sometimes we don't even choose how we initially react, but we choose how we respond. So
Yes.
yeah, that you may have, it may get shorter and shorter because of that onion aspect. You may continue to have a particular reaction, but that reaction gets shorter, and then you can choose a different response.
Very well said. Very well said. I agree completely.
And sometimes it can look to others as if you are not even having to go through it anymore. But that's not really the case. It's just that it may be more internal, and it may be a much shorter duration. And so from somebody else's perspective, it can look like, oh, they've bypassed it. They're not experiencing it anymore. But it's more about you making sure that you're acknowledging it, that you're feeling the emotions, whether that's to let the tears flow, nature's emotional shower, let the anger energy out. And I do the fist. It doesn't mean about to a person. It can be to a pillow or a punching bag or a tree, but it's about moving that energy in that way. All of those things are aspects that I can really see myDream helping somebody maybe even bring the subconscious to the fore, to the consciousness, so that you can move that stuff through. Because when it is stuck in your subconscious, it doesn't mean you don't feel it. It just means you're not acknowledging it, and you can't choose your response. Your response becomes a reaction as opposed to a choice. The choice is not to bring it forward. Like that's the aspect. And I can really see the app helping with bringing that to the fore.
I want to also go back to something that Katie asked as well in the last question, which was around the remembering of dreams and how that is a huge barrier for a lot of people. But it, similar to the swimming, like we can all do it. We can all remember. It really is about, think of it as a muscle that has atrophied, right? If you don't exercise, you don't walk, your legs are not, you're going to lose your muscle definition, and it's going to feel like it's gone, but it's not gone. It's just not being used right now. And I can't tell you how many people have said, just by using this app, I'm remembering my dreams more. Just by going into the app, reading an article, setting the intention of, I do remember my dreams. Yeah, it actually gets better. And then the more you use the app, the more it just keeps happening. And so obviously there are certain like medications and things that will, block that completely. And that's absolutely a factor. But for the majority of people, it is simply a matter of intention and execution, in terms of just interaction, in terms of thinking about it, in terms of reflecting on your dream in your waking space. And we actually have a lot of great articles on our app about dream recall, and tips for dream recall. And we're actually building out a whole feature to kind of walk through, like a 7-day challenge or a 10-day challenge of, here's how we're going to help you remember your. So that's something that we're actively building out right now with our dream experts. I'm really excited about. So it is something that, without a doubt, I can tell you it will help with dream recall, simply because.
So I can train myself to remember my dreams.
And it's not even that active. It's the intentionality. It's I want to remember my dreams. I'm interacting with this app. I'm thinking about this. You're just putting the intention out there, and your brain will create new neural pathways to support that intention.
And I'm one of those
didn't know that.
people who need to exercise that particular muscle, so to speak, because I do what they call a warrior's wake. So I go from sleep to wake. and nothing in between. But I have done in the past, it's been a good 10 or 15 years, this where you set the intention. And at the time I set the intention and I would wake up and I'd write down just a few lines of like, here's what I remember from whatever my last dream was or whatever dream that comes to the mind. And just that simple act of setting the intention and having the practice. Again, I did this for maybe 2 weeks and then I was like, okay, I'm done. It was labor intensive for me at the time. But I do know that it works and that it can be done.
And the key thing you said there was you captured any little detail, even
Yeah.
just feeling, even just a word, like anything gets you started. It doesn't have to be perfect. That's one of the things that's interesting. We did beta testing with 130 people before we ever went live with the app, which is very unheard of in technology. They're like, just go live. We'll figure it out later. This is people's subconscious. I don't want to plant a seed that grows into a weed. I want to plant a seed that grows into a flower. I want to make sure we get this right. So we were really intentional with our testing, and we had 130 people test the app. And yeah, just writing down a little piece of information. And it was astonishing how they were able to then build on that just a little bit. And then by the end of the session, they were remembering full-blown dreams. So
Wow.
it's really about the intentionality, but then just putting a little effort into it. It doesn't have to be a lot, and it can even be just reflecting on it. And one of the other things, oh, sorry, did you have something?
No,
No?
go ahead. Go ahead.
One of our dream experts, she was giving a talk up in Toronto, and she asked this room of people, like, so who remembers their dreams? And half of them, like,
Yeah.
who's had a sex dream? Everyone's hand shot up. So it's like we've all had the dreams, right? We've all know we've had those dreams. So it's just the fuzziness and the disconnect. It's real for all of us, but there is a space for that to come more into fluidity within your waking state as you're waking up. The other benefit too is if you can wake up without an alarm, that's another beautiful way to kind of capture the dream space as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, so there's definitely some tricks and tips to it. But honestly, I bet we're going to have more dreams just because we had this conversation today.
So I have a story. I know we're going to close soon, but I just remembered it, and it's an intriguing story. It's a dream that I had. It was a recurring dream that I used to have when I was quite young. Well, maybe like 10, 11, something like that. And it was a really scary and really realistic. And there was some kind of like a dragony thing would come, and there was fighting and violence, and then I would get picked up by this thing and then drop down, and then inevitably I would die. Okay. So it was quite a traumatic dream situation. And I had it multiple times within a short space of time. And I was so like, I could feel every emotion of this dream afterward when I would be awake. And even just walking around, I remember it. And at some point I was like, I can't die again. Like, I'm going to take control of this situation. So and I thought that, okay, the next time, what are the chances I'll have this dream again? Possibly high. And I set this intention to change the outcome of this dream. And I think it took a couple tries because but I managed finally to do it. So I was in the dream and I somehow realized I was in the dream, and I changed my fate. I didn't die. And then I never had the dream again. And I don't know what that's called, and I don't know what that was about, but I still remember it. It was like, it's like 40 years later, but yeah, I don't even know what that was, but can
Can
people do that? Like, you can
Oh yeah.
control.
Absolutely. So that's the theory behind dream incubation and dream engineering
Oh.
you can work with existing dreams, with recurring dreams as well. But what I'll say about recurring dreams is they tend to show up when you're experiencing the same situation, the emotional charge in your waking life. They tend to kind of come back to be like, hey, they're trying to get your attention, right?
Mm,
There's a message in there that they're trying to get your attention. One of the
yeah.
beautiful things, I want to give credit to Matthew Walker. I'm pretty sure he's the one that said this, is that if dreams did not have value, Mother Nature would have gotten rid of them, right? The fish at the bottom of the sea don't have eyes, but we still dream. That's because it's giving you a message. It's helping you understand something that's critical to your waking life and it's critical to your personal growth and development. And so by you taking charge, whether it had to do with the dream, I bet there was something in your waking life that
Mm,
correlated to in terms of you saying, I'm going to make
mm,
a choice here. I'm going to set a better boundary. I'm going to take more time for myself. I'm going to forgive this person. I'm going to let this go. Whatever that is. And a
mm.
lot of times, my husband had a recurring dream, very similar to yours, where once he finally got over his fear of other people's judgment of him, he the dream ending completely shifted into a positive
Oh.
ending, just like you just described. So there's something about that
Okay.
mirroring, right? It's the
Yeah.
dream space is a safe space for you to explore these emotions and these options, right? So it's like, oh, I'm running from this big scary monster. And it's like, what are you
Yeah.
running from in your waking life? It's really about that. And so what does that
Mm,
scary monster represent to you? Because it's your brain is trying to work through these in a safe space where you feel
mm-hmm.
comfortable enough to experience it. Now, I no disregard for nightmares. I know those are awful, but those are your brain, your subconscious trying to wake you up to something that you're avoiding, and it's trying to get you to the point where you can make a different choice and
Mm-hmm.
therefore kind of shake you awake, literally. Like, come on,
Yeah.
get them. And so it can be really frustrating to feel lost. Like, why do I keep having this dream? Why do I keep having this nightmare? And the ability to work with it is actually to, I don't want to say confront it, but to face it and to acknowledge it and to work with it is actually the best way to get past it. There's no way around it. It's just through it, but it doesn't have to be as scary as it feels because
Mm-hmm.
it's all in your best interest. It's all for you. It's all your inner world working for you. It loves you. It wants to help you. So this is a tool that it's giving you
Mm-hmm.
to understand yourself better.
I just want to note that
Ooh.
when we were talking before we started about Katie's trip to Japan, the gift she was getting was for her younger brother. And I believe, Katie, that your brother was born around the same time that the time period that you described for the stream. So you were becoming a big sister.
Yes.
I don't know that it had
Yes.
anything necessarily to do with that dream, but literally
Yes.
when you were
That's
talking about
true.
it made, because you said 10 or 11, I was
Yeah.
like, oh, that's exactly when her younger
Yes.
brother was
Yeah. He
born.
was
It
born when I
made
was
that,
10. Yep. Yep.
yeah,
Yeah.
it
Oh,
just made that
interesting.
connection in my brain, at least. So,
That's one of the really cool parts about sharing dreams with other people. So one of the beautiful things that happens in the dream space is there's dream groups. So you'll show up every week and you'll share your dream with people in this dream group and they'll reflect to you what they're picking up on and they're leveraging their intuition as well.
Oh.
Iterate things back to you. And this has been known to help people identify medical issues. This has been known to help people resolve conflict. It's just sometimes it's helpful to have that third party viewpoint. So like when we talk to our friends and things like that, that's so helpful. One of the things that we do in the app is you have the ability to share. So you could share your dream and your interpretation if you wish to your friends or your families. And we're working
Oh,
on a social
okay.
media feature right now, but
Yeah.
and eventually we want to have a community where you could actually share the dream in the app and then be able to um, get a reinterpretation if you want it. Like, so, hey,
Hmm.
reinterpret this with the framework of Katie's brother being born. And then you could see how it translates the interpretation because there, the more life context you add, the better it's able to
Mm.
extrapolate and really tailor the meanings to what it is that you're going through. Um, but even if you don't feel comfortable doing that, you don't have to. It works you
Mm.
so
you control what you share.
exactly. And we're big on data privacy. I mean, that's why we have a subscription-based model is we don't want to sell data. We don't want to do ads. We want to honor every person's privacy. We actually don't even look at your dreams. Like our user analytics tool, everything is blacked out. So if we're trying to figure out, a bug or something and we're replaying, like we don't see any of it. And that was intentional because your dreams are your private space and we honor that sovereignty so much. It's part of the reason we bootstrapped as well. We built this business with our own money. And we wanted to make sure that as we were building the MVP, that we were not influenced by any outside voices so that we could really have control over the data because we're so lackadaisical in our society about data, but I think it's finally starting to come back to be like, wait a second, you know way too much about me. And this is a little bit creepy that I'm getting an ad the next day for something I talked to my friend about, an hour ago. And it's just, it is an information age, but people still should have sovereignty over what is shared and how. And so dreams and that inner work, it's extremely personal. It's not for anyone else to judge or weigh in on unless you want it to be. But there has to be a safe space for that. And all of the data is anonymized. So there's no way for anyone to tie anything back to you. So it's I'm really commend my husband on this because he built the system architecture to make sure that it's done in this way.
Wow.
Because we're so committed to data privacy, so it's just, it's important. It's important, but
It is.
it's
And in
also,
this day and age, it's unusual.
it is unusual. Yeah, it's interesting.
In the best way. Like,
Yeah.
I don't want to say, like sometimes people are like, oh, that's weird. I'm like, to me, that is unusual. And I'm hoping it is a harbinger or a precursor to a new wave
Yeah.
of the way
It's
that
the way how it should be, really.
Yeah. And I'll share, if I could share something else about that, just going back to our dream expert. So we didn't really talk about this, but I consult for Stanford Reg Lab. They work with public agencies to find how AI can be used in the public sector to improve service delivery. So my passion of improving, my civil service work hasn't stopped. Just I'm doing it on the side to support and make sure that the work keeps moving forward. One of the things that is important in AI is the human in the loop component. And the thing that a lot of people don't do or don't realize is that most AI models, there's no human in the loop component. There is no checking. There's this little disclaimer at the bottom. It's like, verify critical facts. It's like, these models are trained to tell you what you want to hear. They're trained to become addicting. And it's not to say I'm not crapping on AI on generic AI. I'm not. I just want people to be aware of that because with dreams in particular, this was so important to us is to make sure that we had a human in the loop component because not only is that an AI best practice, and that's something that I tout with my work with Stanford, and when I speak to states and I do my I'm on different webinars and different. I speak for different agencies, and I'm asked to do that. I always am promoting the evaluation process, and so what our dream experts do when we did our testing of the 130 testers, we asked them if they felt comfortable to share if a dream felt right to them to share that dream anonymously, and submit it to our dream experts. It was all voluntary. They submitted 600 dreams to us during this time period. And there's more, but we whittled it down to kind of the best, kind of most verbose, because it might be a one-liner, right? And it's like, well, we want to train our judges to keep on making sure that it's working as intended. So anyways, so they actually look at all of those dreams and they score them on a rubric based on their decades of clinical experience and saying, yes, this is a good dream. We already know that it resonated with the person and they were like, this is great. Yes, this makes sense to me. And we use that to then build what's called an LLM judge, or basically a model that evaluates another model. And so it can be constantly running to evaluate the interpretations to make sure that they're staying in the status that we have set as the standard. And if there's something that dips below the standard, we're able to go in and evaluate that. But all of the dreams are private. This is a data set that was given to us voluntarily by our testers. And then we have an ongoing group of testers that continue to do that for us. And we're continuing to make refinements and things like that. And we have a whole way to do that with the human in the loop component. So from a data privacy standpoint, we even included that. We're like, it's anonymous and you're volunteering this and it's only if you want to do it. But we're also building in checks and balances with real dream experts that no other generic AI is going to have. So you can feel confident knowing that your dreams and the interpretations are coming with that backing and that experience that AI just can't replicate. There's something about the human emotions and being able to understand and translate the language that we use to speak from our soul. So that's just something I wanted to share because I love that we're doing that. It's not something a lot of people even know to do, let alone what it is. So, but it is something around just the backing that Joel and I bring to the table with the product that is unheard of, and it's similar to the data privacy.
Yes, yes.
And it's exactly the kind of thing which made Katie and I really want to share this with more people. So I think we're getting to the point where it's time to wrap up.
Okay.
And we're hoping that you guys will share stories. Go to myDream, all one word, .io, and you can access it. You have the opportunity to test it out. See if it's right for you. We understand that not everything is for everyone, but this is a tool that can actually be of help. And I'm going to actually look at exploring it as well. Katie did a little bit. I have not. And so I will be looking at doing that because I think anything that can help us find ways to just know ourselves better, to use all of our own internal resources is well worth our time and even a small nominal fee, especially for everything else that they're adding to it. So I don't know if Amy or Katie want to say anything else before we completely wrap.
I'll just say that it's available on Android and Apple. So if you go into the Play Store or the Apple Store and you just type in myDream, it'll show up. And we'll put a link in the chat in the bio for easy access if anyone would like that. And we'll work out some sort of cool trial or something like that. We'll put that in the bio for you guys. And the last thing I'll just say is that if you're into therapy, if you're into meditation, if you're into any of that, one of the shortcomings with some of that is that you have to be able to articulate what's going on. And if that's a challenge, dream space is absolutely something to consider because it's showing you what you're already working through and you may not just be acknowledging. And so it gives you a starting point. One of the things that has been so cool about this is I've had over 24 therapists reach out to me and say, this is amazing. I want to use this for my clients because it can bring into their therapy as a starting point because it can be difficult to pinpoint what is the thing that's really bothering me. And so it's that tool in the dream space to bring into those sessions. So it is something to enhance your life. It is something to support all of the other work that you're doing. Or it could just be a starting point. It have to, be one or the other, but I just wanted to share that we've seen it work really well synergistically with all other modalities. It's a core piece that unites us all.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Amy. Truly, thank you for making time to be with us today. Really appreciate it.
I had so much fun. Thank you guys so much for having me on.
Yes, and we hope it's helpful for all of you out there and that you'll take time to let us know. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.